article titled Collaborative Dialogue in Learner-Learner and Learner-Native Speaker Interaction, researcher Ana Fernando Dabao poses the question, when engaging in collaborative dialogue, does the proficiency level of the learner pair affect the rate of successful collaboration? While there may have been many learner-learner studies, Dabao says that no study has compared the collaborative problem-solving activity that occurs in learner-learner dyads and learner-native speaker dyads. For her study, Dabao wanted to make this direct comparison. Dabao designed a study that included intermediate-level students, advanced students, and native English speakers. Dabao defines a successful collaboration as a jointly generated language-related episode, or LRE. An LRE is defined by Swain and Lapkin as any part of a dialogue where the students talk about the language they are producing, question their language use, or correct themselves or others. The research for this study was conducted at a university in Spain. Participants were volunteers and all students at the university. There were 32 total participants. 24 of those were English learners whose native language was Spanish. All of the learners were either graduate or undergraduate students studying in the university's English department. Of the learners, 12 were intermediate level and 12 were advanced level. The learner participants were all between the ages of 19 and 26, 23 female and 1 male. The 8 native English speakers were visiting students from both England and the United States. 5 were male and 3 were female. The researchers does not indicate the ages of the native speakers. For this study, a spot the difference task was implemented. Each participant was given a different version of a cartoon picture story, and pairs were asked to work together to identify as many differences as possible without looking at their partner's picture. The research took place at the university after school hours. Each dyad was seated across from each other with a screen between them to keep them from seeing each other's picture, but which allowed them to see each other's facial expressions and gestures. The students were given the task, and their attempts were recorded both on video and audio. Each attempt was followed by a stimulated recall interview conducted in the participants' native tongue and without their partner present. At that time, students were told the nature of the research and were asked to listen back to the recorded audio of their tasks. Participants were asked to reflect on any problems that arose and comment on whether or not they thought that mutual meaning had been achieved. In the data analysis, the researcher looked for lexical trouble spots, or holes in the learner's vocabulary, by identifying where the use of communicational strategies emerged. According to Dabao, a CS illustrates what the learner is trying to say but cannot say with correct target-like vocabulary. For her purposes, CSs are counted as LREs when they evolve from a lexical problem to a collaborative activity between partners. Some LREs were successfully resolved, meaning that an agreed-upon understanding was achieved, and some were not. Results. The statistical results of the study showed that, yes, proficiency level does affect the rate and nature of collaborative dialogue. Dabao states that lexical LREs were more frequent and more likely to be correctly resolved in learner-native speaker than learner-learner interaction. The presence of a native-speaking interlocutor had a positive effect on both the frequency and nature of the collaboration dialogue. The explanation given for this is that the learner-learner pairs may not always possess the knowledge needed to achieve a successful collaboration. The study also concluded that there seemed to be no increase in the frequency or resolution rate of LREs when advanced learners were paired with either intermediate or native speakers. In fact, out of the total number of CSs, the pair with the lowest number of LREs was an advanced learner native speaker dyad. The pair with the highest was an intermediate learner dyad. The researcher concluded that what was perhaps a more important factor than proficiency level was that pairs were inclined towards cooperation. The research concludes that while having a native-speaking interlocutor or higher level is helpful in creating meaningful LREs, the pattern of interaction must be collaborative. This means that learners can benefit from working with both higher and lower level learners as long as the two members of the dyad adopt a cooperative orientation. The practical implication of this study illustrates that complex social and interpersonal variances can greatly affect language development in a group or paired setting. It also shows how important collaborative dialogue is to learning a new language. Some discussion questions. What other factors might affect dyad dynamics? Other than lexicological issues, what other forms of language might be addressed in this type of study? And finally, what role does culture play in our collaborative orientation?